Welcome to episode 3 of the Nobody Entertainment Podcast, the podcast where we talk about entertainment, exercise, our lives, etc., etc., etc. I'm Nobody James Black, and this right here is Nobody John Ocker.
John.
John, what are you drinking there?
I'm drinking a raspberry Hefeweizen from Schlafly.
You were talking earlier about how you were drinking a what? A,
Oh,
a
an
tangerine?
apricot beer.
Apricot. I was
Yeah.
close.
I'm
Okay.
really, I'm
And
really on this strawberry summer kick. So strawberry blondes and ales. Raspberry's got a little bit of a sour to it, uh, but I'm down. So
to my knowledge, you tried so far, you've had the raspberry, the apricot, the strawberry, the mango.
hmm
What else? Is that the four?
those are the four fruits that I've had besides wheat,
It's
rye.
fruit, I don't think.
Listen, it's got a bundle up top that could be a berry. I don't know. I took biology in college, and my mind was just destroyed on what an actual berry is, what constitute a nut, and I was just like, "That's a nut." And they're like, "No, actually, that's classified as a berry." And I'm like,
And then after you
I don't even
graduated
know who
college,
I
you
am
found out what
anymore.
a nut really was.
Yeah, could have found that out at a truck stop, but whatever.
And here we are, right? Well, John, let me tell you about my week just for a minute here. And the shit show that is my world, I guess. On the good news, I don't have COVID. My family came out clean, so we had no problems there. The downside to that is, I say downside is in like equal parts positive and negative.
You gotta go
I had
back
to
to work.
play. I got to go back to work now, but I had to play a little bit of hooky and obviously burn up some vacation over the course of the last 10 days or whatever the case was. Because obviously, not knowing my situation, I didn't want to take a chance on contaminating anybody in
Your work
my
didn't give
field.
you any
Or
kind of like, yeah, stay home.
truthfully, they didn't even know about it until Monday morning. So, I mean, I missed out on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's work. My boss is actually on vacation because he and his wife had
Something.
twins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I didn't get to talk to him until Monday, but I got the shifts covered and just hung out. But he didn't seem to care at all. He said he'd get back in touch with me, but then I heard literally not a single word about it. So I got all this extra time off with no qualms at all. So I guess that's a positive. So anytime I could spend with my family is always going to be a positive thing. But again, burning through some vacations, not something I necessarily wanted to do. Leaving my employees high and dry is not necessarily something I wanted to do. But in the meantime, I have gone way off the rails on my diet. My wife and I actually, this is another positive. I'm going to go into this for a second. Have you tried? I think we talked about this last week, but have you tried the Walmart pickup delivery, whatever the case is? I
I
don't think
did
you really do
the
Walmart, but
cart thing from Aldi one time. The guy
yeah. And
forgot
you
my
just
he forgot my lettuce, so
so did you go back and get the lettuce?
no, they gave me a refund.
So did
I
you
tried to
call or
talk
did
to
they
him. I was
just
like,
catch it?
dude, maybe the head. Like, I got it after I was at work, and he dropped it off, and Madison got it, and I was like, maybe it's rolling around in the back of your car. And they're like, oh, sorry, they just corporate
So they
like give him a refund.
they straight bring it to you with Aldi's.
Yeah,
So that's a
delivery
little
at the
bit
house.
better because the way the Walmart works out is you actually go to the website, you fill your cart, and you say what time you're going to be there. Then they bring it out to your cart, and it is absolutely effortless. Um, so on that side of things, it's actually been fantastic. But the thing I will say is a lot of these returns and I don't know exchanges, things like that, are all on the back burner right now. So like Walmart, for instance, you can't return anything because of this stuff that's going on. So that's always a negative. I actually have like a giant pile of stuff I need to return to Walmart because over the
Why are you
course of the
returning
last
stuff?
4 months. Well, I just have I like for our trip. I hate to talk about it a third week in a row, but I bought like two different phone mounts and I didn't like either of them, so I need to return those. I've got a box of K cup sweet teas that my wife likes to drink, and none of them are sweetened. She drank like four of them out of the box, and they're all just regular tea, and she won't drink them. So I filled them up with four of the sweet teas out of a new box, and those things are like $14 a piece. So I'm going to return it. It's ridiculous that we have this box of K cups that's never going to get used because she doesn't drink unsweetened tea. Again, really bitchy, mild thing, but
Yep,
still,
first world problems over here.
yeah, but still, it's $14 $15 that we're just going to be out of. I don't understand why we would throw that away whenever it's just a manufacturing issue.
Well, I'm gonna
So
let the $11 I spent at lunch today run its course, and it's gonna end up in the same place. The
yeah,
landfill.
what's that? Yeah, but at least you got to enjoy it. That'd be like ordering an $11 lunch and then just dumping it in a trash can. Why would you do that? And don't act like you would,
A
because you
diet.
cried about a 64-cent head of lettuce to Aldi's. All right. So that's not even the half of it. Okay. So before we went on our trip, I bought a pair of Keen sandals. Okay. Here's the story on that. I went over to Cabela's, right? Second time I've ever even been in a Cabela's, because I knew they sold Keens. I walk in and there's 3 or 4 pairs of these water shoes or hiking/water sandals, whatever the case is, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's Keens and then like 2 or 3 other brands. I'm walking in and I have no idea what to expect as far as these Keen sandals go. My wife's had a pair for like 15 years. She swears by them. They're the greatest quality shoe in the entire world. Okay. I walk in, I hit the first pair, and I'm like, wow, $35. That's not too bad. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, 55. The next one's 65. And then I get over to the Keens. I'm like, let's see what these are, because apparently the quality is fantastic. I walk over, and they're like $120 pair of sandals. And I'm just like, holy crap. Like, I can't believe the amount of money that these sandals are. And plus, I'm not going to wear them all the time, but she swears by them. So I call her up and I say, hey, I've got these options that are, half the price, maybe even cheaper, and I'm not needing them for the end of the world. And then I've got these Keen sandals that are $100 and some. She says, I just think for the price, I think you're going to get your money's worth and you should go for them. All right, fine. Buy the Keens. Wear them for roughly 2 weeks, off and on, okay? And I'm talking just
Are these
the
the ones you took on the trip?
Yes, light wearing. I mean, I didn't wear them during the bike ride. I wore them walking around after the bike ride. Nothing too crazy. I wore them on my camping trip last week. I did wear them into the water, but just mildly. I'm talking like getting in and out of a canoe in the water. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in that instance, I loved them because they dried up real quick. Like a matter of 4 hours, they were dry again because I got the nylon, not the leather, whatever. Then I come home from my camping trip and we wash them in the washing machine one time, and they completely fall apart. Just completely. Which,
like spin cycle or something?
It was it's a regular wash cycle. Nothing too crazy. But still, I wash my running shoes. I've washed every pair of shoes I've ever owned, and I've never had an issue. Ever.
I don't wash my shoes. Maybe that's why they smell.
On the plus side, right? I take these shoes back. Actually, I call them up and I spend roughly 30 minutes on hold. Not necessarily on hold, waiting for an associate to pick up the phone. I asked them, hey, is it possible to return these? I just got them about 2 weeks. I had it down to the day. I said I'd had these for exactly what it was. It was 26 days at that time. I said, this is day 26 right now. I don't have my receipt. I don't have my box. I obviously got rid of this stuff. But they're literally falling apart. He says, well, let me talk to my boss. He comes back. He says, yeah, they say you're good to go. Bring them on in. We'll exchange them. All right, no big deal. Walk into the store, talk to the guy at the desk. He acts like I'm a complete criminal. Of course, asked me who I talked to, why would they tell me this? But in his defense, I was able to get the shoes and just swap them straight out. And then, of course, as I'm leaving, he says, keep your receipt this time. All right, well, whatever, that's fine. So I leave.
You
and I get
have
myself
like something from your credit card? You cash only kind of guy now?
No, I did. Actually, I used partial cash and partial card, which is part of the reason I was a little bit nervous, because I don't like keeping cash on me. So I had like a 20 spot in my wallet, threw it his way, and then I put the rest of it on my card. But he was able to look up my information on my card, but it's just, they prefer to have the receipt just for, I don't know, their own peace of mind.
Wait,
But okay,
email it
that's
to me
fine.
then.
That's not a bad point. But here's the kicker. We've talked about this. I bought this Nordic Track treadmill, spent $2,200 on this treadmill.
Yep.
All right. We waited over a month for it to show up in the mail. Okay. I get it. We put it together. My wife and I spend 2 to 3 hours. First of all, we have to carry this 260-pound treadmill down to our base. We have to put it together. It takes 3 hours. And then we have it for 5 days. I'm running on it day before yesterday. I get 1 mile in, and I go to crank up the speed. I go to hit the speed button, and I accidentally hit the stop button, and it just instant stops, which I've never been on a treadmill.
Is that your
If you hit
emergency stop?
Nope. There was no emergency stop. It was just an accidental stop button. What happened was the controller, I don't know the exact technical term for it, but it malfunctioned and it won't start again. So not only did I almost literally stumble over myself and fall into the console of this treadmill upon accidentally hitting the stop button, I've got a broken treadmill that we spent $2,200 on just sitting down here in my basement. I called customer support. I was on the phone with them for about 45 minutes, which is not the end of the world, but I get a hold of somebody. What do you think that they did or are going to do for me in this scenario?
Send you out a new board.
They're going to send me the parts. I mean, I guess that's the technical way that it should be handled, but what? Like, in what world? They're not sending someone over to fix anything. They have two parts that they identified. So first of all, I had to troubleshoot it and identify the problem myself. I get it. It's a big piece of machinery. They're going to send me the parts so I can repair the machine myself. Normally, they would have a service technician come out, but because of COVID, they're not going to have people come out at this time. Yep. Or they could, but they just can't promise when it's going to happen. All right, that's fine. That's fine. How long do you think it's going to take for me to get these parts?
2 weeks.
Okay, so normally 7 to 10 business days, so roughly 2 weeks for these parts. All of this stuff is on back order. So they have no idea how long it's going to take. It's probably going to take, they said, up to at least 30 days.
Well,
so
let's get a different treadmill.
That's exactly what I'm saying. But I'm dumbfounded at this idea that I'm going to have to wait again another month. We bought it, we waited a month, we get it, we lug it downstairs, we put it together. I run on it no more than we put 32 miles on it in the 5 days, so I'll give us that credit. But
that's what $2,000 gets you, 35 miles.
That's what, yeah, exactly. And then it takes a crap, and then I have to call and deal with customer support several weeks, get the parts, install it, and then hope that this $2,200 piece of machinery works appropriately. What? With that being said, I can be done bitching. John, how was your week?
You know, it was what it is. It's still going on. I am
still going.
Not dead yet, and I'm still having to work. So I was going to run some PEX tubing underneath my house. I opened it up, went under there, and I was like, ground's a little soft. It's a lot of moisture, and then there's condensation on my HVAC. I was like, well, this isn't cool. So I did a little research. Apparently, because my house is built in 1954, they didn't really have a lot of cooling back then, like as far as that. So they put vents on crawl spaces, and I've left my vents open. Well, that's dumb because it's colder under there. It's like 76, 77 degrees. And so it has condensated. And so now I have wet earth under there that used to be dry. So I rented a dehumidifier, which did some damage. I took it back today. It was a little bit of a pain. So that's been on my mind, like, because I really want to run that PEX tubing, put the whole home water stuff in, but I don't really want to crawl around and actually get like dirty in there. I'm just gonna have to just do it, but it's gonna have to be on the weekend. My sister came by and wanted to host half her Jeep parts in my garage because it's summertime and she doesn't want the doors, she doesn't want the top on it because she's a Jeep person. So I was like, yeah.
she lives in Kansas City now.
Mm-hmm.
She took the parts off of her own Jeep.
Well,
she didn't store them at her place.
Nope, she's got an apartment.
So you can't store a Jeep door in an apartment?
It doesn't matter. I helped her out.
Yeah,
she put her shit.
You're too soft on her. Let me tell a quick story here.
Is it soft, or I don't want to get pummeled?
That's a good point. This is the same sister that you include in a group text to be friendly and fun. And then after the third message, she says, "Take me out of this. I'm tired of listening to it."
No, she said she was at work, and I understand. I can empathize with that.
It was 7 o'clock in the morning.
She's at work. I would just put it in mute. I do that shit. Yeah.
All right.
My brother Eric and Tony Anthony are really bad about it, and I'll like take that group chat and I'll just notifications off. And then after work or when I get up in the morning, then I'll check every bullshit that they've gone through, sipping on a cup of coffee and like reading for days. So, past that, you know, it's been harder to go running outside. I don't want to go to the gym. Like I drove to Home Depot, which is next to my gym, to return that tool, that dehumidifier from my crawl space, and like that parking lot's full because people don't give a crap. We all wear face masks now. We got our mandate, despite the underwear vindicator guy. Um, so we all cover our mouths and our other parts, and there's just too many people, and I don't really want, I don't feel comfortable in that environment because I would really like to run. And when I run, I breathe heavy, and I mean like I'm not just putting around, like I'm burning O2, I'm burning calories, so I'm like deep breathing. I just don't feel comfortable, so I have to stay up late, which I've been tired lately. So I haven't been doing that because I have been cutting calories. And so like it's way too fucking hot right now. It's way too hot. I had to go to the doctor 2 days ago. It was my checkup, my yearly checkup. Their scale
Yeah.
is very generous, and they were like, "You're 153 pounds." It's like, no, I'm not. But
Holy
thank you.
cow. I mean, so according to what you just said, you dropped 12 pounds in the last 3 weeks?
My scale says I'm 155 pounds. Um, you know, before Sunday feast. But yeah, their scale said I was 153. So
What's
I
your
was
goal?
140. I would like to get to 145. Now I need to really tone up, but I'm getting there.
What's
What?
been entertaining you this week?
I've been trying to get into. Um, I mean, not get into. I'm like 5 hours in.
You made it further than I did.
Yeah. Into Shadow of War,
Okay,
and
Middle Earth, Shadow of War.
mhm,
All right.
mhm.
Start us off. What is this game?
It is the Assassin's Creed of Middle Earth, and you are one of those Duerdans. Uh, family's been slaughtered. That's in the first game. You kind of figure all that stuff out. You've got a wraith, elven wraith that Sauron murdered his family. You guys kind of like, he possesses you basically, and you guys fight orcs. In the first one, you made your own ring of power, and you're like can command an orc legion or whatever. If you take over a captain and bring that captain up, he can control his own horde, and you kind of challenge the power, the mouth of Mordor. You challenge Sauron. It's sort of where you leave it off, like you're taking over Mordor. Second, Shadow of War comes around. Apparently, you don't have your horde of orcs anymore. Mordor is now cleanly under Sauron's control, and you lose your ring to Shelob. I'm doing spoilers, by the way. I hope that's okay for everybody. But
Yeah,
you like
she.
literally give
Hold
up
on,
your ring of
hold on,
power
hold
on
on,
him.
hold on, hold on.
Go ahead.
Shelob is
A spider.
hardly. It's hardly a spoiler because it's in the first 25 minutes of the game,
I
right?
know.
And with that being said, who is Shelob in the mythos of Lord of the Rings?
It's just a spider.
Just a spider,
Yeah.
not a woman, not a beautiful woman.
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay, go on.
But now she's like this woman. In this, yeah. Didn't think. I think Shelob was just a spider. Maybe she got into his head because like the spiders and I don't know.
Maybe it explains it later in the game, but the first time I played this game came out on September 27th of 2017 for essentially all consoles, etc. Um, like you
I like
said,
the first one.
it is an Assassin's Creed type, and I'm glad you brought that up. But I'm going to put a pin in that, and we'll bring that up a little bit later. But it is the Assassin's Creed of the Lord of the Rings games. It plays identical to an Assassin's Creed playstyle, but I will go into my thoughts and opinions in a little bit. But like you said, you liked the first one. How far into the first one did you get?
I beat the first one.
Okay. And how long do you think that game was? Maybe 20 hours?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more. I didn't understand the whole, um, hey, you've got these orcs you can battle all the time. So I spent a lot of side missions just like fucking up my nemesis, which is a cool aspect I think of the first game, sort of present in the second game, where like you have one orc captain that the game randomly decides that you kill, that it's going to bring back time and time again. And I think a really cool feature of it is that like let's say one time you like slice his face or whatever. So the next time you meet him, he's got like orcs do what orcs do, like stitches. It's just metal that they've like put his
Stapled
face
their
back
face
together.
back together.
Yeah. If you chop off his arm, now he's got like a hook or a spear jabbed into his arm, and like that's what he's using instead of his hands. I think that kind of aspect is cool. That's not the Nemesis function is not really present in the second one. You come across the same orcs again. They do repair them or whatever. The orc captains or generals, but you don't have a nemesis. And it seems like I was battling one orc, right? One orc captain, and I literally died because 3 other orc captains just suddenly showed up, and I was fighting way too many. They've got war banners, and it just seemed OP, which is where I'm going to go into because it is frustrating beyond a doubt. And it was in the first game. I play on a controller in this third-party game. I play with an Xbox or Microsoft 360 controller.
I'm glad you showed that because I would have no idea what that was. I've never heard of a controller.
And then I also play with this, but not in this is a Steam controller. I don't play that in the Lord of the Rings game. So the clunkiness of the A button in this game. The A button is the sprint. The A button is the climb. The A button is the roll. It's the juke. It is the all-around button in this game. And there are these, they call them Carrigans or Carrigans. They're in the cages. And you can let them out. They're just like big giant tiger dogs, like a warg, but not a warg. For some reason, they have a Carrigan. Wow, they have just wargs in there. We all know what a warg is. It's a freaking dire wolf. Anyhow, when you go to cut and let that beast out of the cage, I would like to be able to just hit A and jump on top of the cage. No. You break open the cage gate, you push A, you automatically roll into the cage with the damn animal. The whole purpose of it is to let it out and let it start killing orcs, not roll into the cage with the beast and let it like rip you up. If I'm up against a building wall and I want to get away from the orcs, I do not want to be up against a building wall pushing A, just doing somersaults. I want to climb up the wall and get away from the horde of orcs that are behind me. It's ridiculous. If I'm going to slice the cage, like it pulls aggro and like I'll turn around and fight an orc. I'm like, no, I want to swing at the cage to let the animal go. So it's a diversion for me to like get rid of some of the underlings so I can get to the captain. I find it very frustrating. The storyline, I'm only 3% in the storyline because I do want to kill out the orc captains to help out Gondor, but it's becoming taxing. But that's what's been entertaining me. So,
do you think you're going to stick with it?
I mean, I'll beat it. It's gonna take a while. I'm not gonna, smash out 10 hours on a weekend or anything like that. I've got to pick it up, and then I get to a point where I'm frustrated, and then I gotta put it down.
Well, if I go into my side of it, I've also been playing that same game a little bit, and it's going to lead into another game that I dipped out and jumped into. Go ahead. What? Say that.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you've had plenty of time to be able to play it.
I did have plenty of time, and I put exactly 2 hours into the game. Okay.
What have you done?
I'll go into that in just a minute, but let me talk about this game for a second because this is the definition of a frustrating game. Okay. My experience with Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor and then Middle of Earth Shadow of War. I bought Shadow of Mordor when it first released. I played it probably 5 to 8 hours, and I couldn't get into it. It just the storyline felt incohesive. I did like the Nemesis system, but it did feel frustrating. Just like you said, like I would walk up to a level 5 orc Nemesis or whatever, start fighting him, and then all of a sudden a level 14 orc would walk up behind me, or at least this is the way my memory serves, right? So then I'd either be forced to kill him and run away, or to just abandon it because I'm on the verge of death. Okay, so I put the game down. I just got frustrated with it. I like the systems. I like the combat, I guess I would say. I didn't care about the story. I thought the leveling system was a little bit broken in the sense that these levelings, at least in my memory, and I could be wrong about this, but they were like minor, like increase 10% crit damage or whatever the case is. And that's my most frustrating thing. Like, for instance, I'm going to go off on a small tangent, but on The Witcher 3, a fantastically built game, but it's not for me because it's one of my biggest frustrations. I don't give a shit whenever I go into a menu and each level I earn, sit there and grind for hours and hours and hours to get one leveling point to give me a 5% damage boost with a longsword. That's a stupid bonus. It just doesn't make sense. It's not rewarding, and it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't get me excited about my leveling tree. You
So
had something
see,
to say.
I do, I do. So I will disagree with you in the level, armor, and abilities of this game. I think they do it right. Like currently, right now, I'm 3% into the storyline, right? But I've killed enough orc captains, and they have orcs that have special relics or gear that they have on there. I've got a freaking secondary blade that has a 15% chance of lighting itself on fire, and then I've got a 50% chance of lighting the orc I'm fighting on fire. Um, and that's a skill that I've got, and then a blade that I've got. And so, like, it's not like The Witcher because you get like, yeah, you get incremental damage increases or
But
agility increases, but there's cool
right,
little abilities that can happen.
right. But I'll compare this to. I'll give you an example of a game that I think does it right, and that is Borderlands 2. Um, there is the assassin in Borderlands 2 that his name is Zero, and one of his bonus trees gets you up to the point where you can do like a decoy. And again, this is a game that I played 10 years ago at this point, so I might be wrong. But from what I can remember, is you can shoot a decoy off to run this way. It turns you invisible. You're allowed to get behind them and do a backstabbing maneuver that does like 50% damage or something like that, right?
Hmm.
So that is a game-changing bonus. That is a max bonus. That is the number one bonus you're looking for, and it takes you essentially 80% of the game to get to that point. Okay, Dying Light, a game that we played together, right? It has a leveling tree that ends with a game-breaking bonus that gives you a grappling hook and lets you like grapple all over the freaking map. You're like Tarzan out there swinging from vines in a zombie horde.
Well,
Okay,
see,
and,
I don't think you've ever got to the point, but there is a bonus at the its storyline increases, but you do get to, so like inside of the Shadow of Mordor, inside of Shadow of War, you can take over a beast, make it your friend. Those Kerrigans, if I do enough damage, I can hit B, and I kind of like uh, mind meld with it or whatever, use the Wraith ability to take over it, and now I'm on top of it. I can ride it. Same thing with those big giant troll creatures. I forget what they're called. You can ride those. In the end, you get it to where like you can take over an orc, and then hopefully you can take over a captain, and now you control a little horde of orcs or whatever. Now you have an army. And that's the game breaking thing, is like I'll follow my orc around till he's freaking taking over all the other orcs. Now he's top dog and I control him. He's my puppet. I'm Palpatine, he's my Vader. So,
well, that you are right, and that's what I will say about this is the two games that I previously mentioned, Borderland and Dying Light, those are again, I say game breaking, but I mean it in a fun way. It's
yeah.
if you stick with this game for the 30, 40, 50, whatever hours it's going to take you to get to the end, then it's going to give you a little bit of a incentive. It's going to say, okay, now you've played the game. Let me give you a little bit of a game breaking incentive to keep going. And like I said, that's a bit of a tangent, and I understand that. But when I look at the tree, there needs to be enough sprinkled in to keep me coming back. And every time I look at the tree in Shadow of War, and as I did in the Shadow of Mordor, it was very much here's a 5% buff here. Here's a little bit of a poison arrow. Or I'm using that hypothetically because I didn't get far enough in Shadow of War. I I need to give it more of a chance.
And
But I
and
was
and here's what I want to tell you need to do. Look at those weapons. Get the orcs with like the little star thing above their heads. Kill those guys. They've got skills. Some of those weapons, you need to unlock the ability in them. Like that one blade that I was talking about that has a percentage to catch fire and then catch the orc I'm fighting on fire when I stab him. You have to kill an orc with that blade while they're on fire, and then it gets that ability.
sure,
So
but
there's like, yeah, you've got the blade. Good for you. You killed an orc, you've got the special blade. Now you need to do this task with the blade to get XYZ powers.
right,
So,
but let me reel it back in just a little bit. Okay,
little
so
bit. Okay.
let's start at the beginning. This is the kind of game that does a little bit of a recap. Actually, I think it does a complete recap of the first game's story within the first 30 minutes. Like you get the entire story.
Well, you get your why you're
The
doing what you're doing.
the
Yeah.
keynotes. You get the keynotes, right? You're the same character, right?
The story's broken though.
It's just
bullshit.
utterly nothing. Like it
you have
doesn't.
this ring of power. Your buddy gets captured, and now you're gonna give up the ring of power.
It's nonsense. And then Shelob, like I said, comes down, which let me just flat out say this. I understand that the people that are buying and playing these games are relative Lord of the Rings fans, but you have to make it all the way to the return. But you have to make it to Return of the King to even know who Shelob is, which Shelob is a spider. It doesn't make any sense. They build all of this into this story, which it's like let's incorporate someone that these people are going to recognize. Okay, Shelob. That's a really popular really popular nemesis in the Lord of the Rings series that doesn't die, right? Shelob doesn't die at the in Return of the King.
I don't think so.
Spoilers for Return of the King. But she comes back and all of a sudden we need to wait for this character, this villain that's existing in the series to make its way back in. But, he can't just be talking to a spider. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
The spiders in Mirkwood talk to you.
Sure, but this scenario.
At least they talk to you when they put the ring on. The elves could
understand. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan. I've only read the first book, Fellowship of the Ring. As far as my actual Lord of the Rings knowledge goes, I've watched all 3 of the movies. I absolutely love 10 out of 10 Fellowship of the Ring, the movie. I think that it took a hard dip in The Two Towers. I give it an 8 out of 10, and I think it took a harder dip in Return of the King in the sense that it just bored me. And I'll give it like a
extended edition is worth it.
No, you're nuts. You're nuts.
I'm not nuts.
That movie's 4 hours long.
Helm's Deep is thebomb.com.
You're insane. Okay. Well, let me give you this. Helm's Deep is fine, but that's the last hour and 30 minutes of a 4-hour movie.
Okay, and
the first 2.5 hours. Everything with the
cool.
trees. Oh my God! Everything with the trees is a snooze fest. Merry and Pippin just make me want to saw them in half. The finding and training and beating up Gollum is boring and stupid. Like they would have kicked him to the curb 5 minutes in.
You're right. I did not. Okay, so I did like the siege on Gondor in Return of the King. I did not like, and I know it's part of the lore, the Ghost Army coming.
No. We jumped over into the Return of the King. There's just no setup for that. They're just like, hey, I'm going to go get the Ghost Army. Okay, here's the Ghost Army.
Boom.
Where's the tension? Yeah, anyway, that's the movies. We can go into that. Exactly, out of nowhere. I'm just call me Nobody Tangent. It's not Nobody James, it's Nobody Tangent, because now I'm going to go into freaking Game of Thrones for a second. There's the Battle of the Bastards. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
the scene where it's like season whatever where he's fighting Bolton, whatever, the douchebag. Ramsay, thank you. And they're all sitting there. They're like surrounded. You feel like they're just getting ready to get destroyed because everyone in that show can die. And then his sister, redhead, what's her name?
Sansa Stark.
Thank you. Sansa shows up with the army that is their enemy, but she manipulates them to be able to come and help them out. Beautifully set up. And then you go to Lord of the Rings. Return of the King, he's like, I'm going to go get the Army of the Dead. Hey, Army of the Dead, come help me. No, we're not going to help you. Well, you are going to help me because I'm your king. Okay, I'll follow you, my king. All right. And then they come in and they just kill everybody. You're like, oh, well, there's the conclusion. That wasn't set up at all in 12 hours of entertainment.
How come the Dark Lord didn't know that? He's got the tower. He can see that shit coming a mile away.
I know. That's what I'm saying. But to get back to the game.
Take care of that shit.
To get back to the game. And then I'm going to go back on the game for a second. And I'm going to transition to what's actually been entertaining me this week. Unless you have something else to say.
You're fine. You should give that game some more chance, though. Like, I'm upset with the story and a couple of the gaming clunkiness of the A button not doing what I need it to do. Maybe it's just because I suck at video games, but I need that A button to do what I want. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, this is what I'm going to promise you.
I'll give you some video of it.
This is what I've got going on. I'm going to give you this promise, then I'll move on to what I was saying. Number one, I'm going to keep playing and hopefully finish the game that I'm currently playing, which I'll go into in a minute, which I think you probably already know what it is, but we'll see. The second one is I'm going to play through a game that comes out literally in 2.5 hours called Ghost of Tsushima for the PlayStation 4.
Yep.
And that's going to be in the same vein, kind of an open world exploratory combat, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to play through that, and then I'm going to come back to Shadow of War, and I'm going to play through the entirety of the game, and I'm going to beat it. And then I'm going to upload an independent review. I'll just do my own solo review. If you want to come in, you can. If you want to add your 2 cents, I'll put them together.
I got to beat the game first.
That's what I'm saying. We got to. It's going to be a bit because I don't have all the time in the world. I'm going back to work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and we'll go from there. But my promise to you is I will play through Shadow of War, and I will beat Shadow of War, and I will give it a fair shake. But as I stand right now, the storyline is the definition of not gripping or entertaining to me. The combat is clunky and loose, like you said, in its entirety. The leveling tree is, to me, the definition of boring and uninvolved. It doesn't give me anything to keep coming back, and maybe it does open up a little bit later, but as it stands, I haven't found anything that's gripping me. There's not a single thing that I am enjoying about this game so far. And I did play it when it first released, and I felt the same way. And when I was going on the PlayStation Store a couple weeks back, I was like, I think it was on sale for like $5, and I was like, man, this is a AAA game for $5. Like, this. Let me pull this up real quick, and then I'll move on.
What are you playing it on currently?
Playing on the PlayStation 4.
Okay, I'm playing it on PC. I don't know if it makes any difference, but graphics are pretty decent. I like it. I
will say it's a decent looking game. I don't have any problem with that. I will say this first of all. Metascore is 80. User score is 4.3. I don't know what this website is. God is Geek gave it 100. Everything about the game outdoes the first. Excuse me. And with the expanded Nemesis system, superb combat, and epic story, you'll be immersed for a long time. If a long time is less than 2 hours, I'll give it to you. God is Geek.
What's the expanded Nemesis thing?
I don't know.
Like, you come back? Is that what they're talking about? That's what I ran into. I've killed orcs. I've died once in this gameplay. I was trying to get away. I was trying to roll up a wall. I was trying to use my wraith ability to leap over a wall. And this orc captain he's level 14. I'm level 5. And he just kept on throwing spears in my back. And I was just like...
That'll get you.
Yeah. Me, like, doing barrel rolls in front of this stupid wall. And he's just like, Chuck. I'm just like... Ugh. Anyway, I do like the orcs. There are some of them that have this adaptive ability. And so, like, if you've got, like, this is your move, like, you leap over them, get behind them, cut them, do that kind of juke stuff, they'll adapt to that, and you can't use that same strategy against them. So I like that.
I will say this real quick, and then I'll move on. Okay. I mentioned the Metascore and the user score. The user score was 4.3, and I just read a few of the user comments, and the reason it's so low is because whenever they originally released this game, there was an abundance of microtransactions, and people had a problem with that. So that was 2017. That's been completely removed from the game, from what I understand, or at least put on the back burner so much that it doesn't affect anything. Mm-hmm. So I will negate the fact that the users agree with me, and this game's a 4.3. And like I said, I commit to the idea that I'll play through the entire game. But what this did, I was playing this 3 nights ago, and I got, like I said, I was playing it for about an hour, and my wife was sitting on the couch, and she was reading. And I just looked at her and I said, I just can't do this anymore. And I was like, she's like, what? I go, well, I told John I'd play through this game or play through some of this game so we could talk about it. And I hate this game. Like, I generally am not enjoying this. So she said, well, play something else. And I was like, you know what, I will. And what it did is it opened up this door for me. And I came downstairs and I popped in a game that I haven't played since it originally came out in 2018. And I felt similar. And that game is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Okay. This game, do you have any experience with the Assassin's Creed series at all?
I do. Jackie introduced me into him, and I was just like, meh.
Our friend Jackie. The 0 people that see this.
He's another nobody, so it doesn't matter.
That's true.
Like, I saw him hunting deer and shit, and I was just like, fuck this game.
Oh yeah, that's exactly in Odyssey, especially. Yeah, that's a piece of the game. So basically, Odyssey, it's very interesting. You made this comparison, and I said I'd put a pin in this, so I'm taking the pin out and bringing it back out. Okay, it's so interesting to me because the Shadow of War, the Middle Earth series, is a complete ripoff of the Assassin's Creed series, Lord of the Ringsified. Okay, so they took the Assassin's Creed that has built its mythos, its characters, etc., into its own living source of entertainment, and frankly quite popular. And then Lord of the Rings, or some developers said, hey, let's take that and we'll slap a Lord of the Rings skin on it, and we'll make our own little game out of it. And they included the Nemesis system, and that was really the only change outside of the Lord of the Rings mythos. Okay, and then Origins comes out, Assassin's Creed Origins comes out, and they include something similar to a Nemesis system. And then Odyssey comes in and it expands it even more greatly. So I've played most of, if not all of, the Assassin's Creed games, and they range from good to great to terrible. And
Why don't you
I've
just
played
keep it the
like,
G's? Good, great, garbage.
Good, great, garbage. You're right. The three G's. That's going to be our scale. Our scale is going to be good, great, and garbage.
So
okay?
1 G's great, 2 G's is good, 3 G's is garbage, or vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa. 1 G, it's going to get 1 G garbage.
I'm talking about that 3 G, baby.
We need to think of a fourth one, because there's got to be like good. I'm sorry, garbage is here, good is here, and great is here. There's got to be something in this little spot. So you think of that while I go on here for a second.
I have to think of it?
You have to think of it. You can Google if you want.
I'm going to have to.
A synonym for great.
Okay.
Anyway. So, 2018 rolls around. I buy this game out of the gate, and over the course, I actually just looked it up. As of December 2019, I had put 12 hours into this game. It just didn't hook me. Nothing grabbed me about it. But having played a little bit more of the Middle Earth series, I was like, I'm going to give this another shot. I popped it in the last 2 days. I put a total gameplay 30 hours in this game. So that means in the last 2 days, I put 18 hours into this game, which is insane, right? And I admit that completely. I don't typically binge games like this, but it did open that door. And I will just say this. I'm going to go into a quick, this is what's been entertaining me this week. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It is set in Greece. It is an amazing open world game that if you just need to turn your brain off, exit the stresses of the world and throw on a podcast or something like that, it's perfect. If you listen to books on tape or just Audible, whatever the case is, I say put on a good book and kick on Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It does everything Shadow of War is supposed to do for you, but it does it 10 times better. The world is so much more expansive. The world is so much more full of realistic, just awesome things. It's actually something I think I'm going to go into. Once I beat the game, I'm going to go on and I'm going to record an independent review, and I'll upload it onto Nobody Entertainment at YouTube. And we take a look at that, because I have a lot to say about it. But the moral of the story is it really scratches that open world itch. And I know that once Ghost of Tsushima comes out, it's going to kind of grab me, hopefully, and it's going to kind of deviate me from that plan. But I will say, after 18 hours of extra gameplay in Odyssey, I've completed exactly 1 chapter out of seemingly 8 chapters in the game. I had finished 1 through 3 in the first 12 hours, and in the second 18 hours, I finished chapter 4. So I still have at least 4 chapters to go, and it's all about leveling up your character. It's all about exploring this land. You can go, on land. You can go on boat. You can swim deep into the oceans. You fight everything from sharks to bears to mythological beasts, which I hadn't seen any of those. They have this one character introduced early in the game. He's the basis for the Cyclops, but he's a man that's missing an eye. But he's just a very large man. So I'm like, okay, so this is going to introduce these mythological beasts in a really interesting way. But then I got this mission a couple hours back. My daughter was actually watching me play it, and it said kill Polycyrus or whatever his name was. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go on this mission. I'm going to go over there and kill him. And it doesn't tell you what level it is. You get over there, it's just this blue icon. and then this giant Cyclops orc comes walking out, and I'm like, holy crap! I didn't even realize that there are mythological beasts in this game. And I just ran away, and she was laughing at me. It was just silly and a lot of fun. But
It was like God
first,
of War.
yeah, very very similar in the sense. But the thing is that I'm going to be honest with you, that knocks it down just a peg because it's not set in a mythological setting, or at least I didn't think that it was. I thought it was going to take the concepts of Medusa or Hercules or Hermes or whatever the case is, and kind of tie them into a real world setting where these people idealize um, these real people. So, for instance, like Hermes might be a really fast character or whatever the case is in real, so they just call him,
Yeah, so it's over exaggerated through time.
Yeah, exactly. But I walk into this, and again, this is 30 hours into the game. I walk into an actual Cyclops that's towering over me and ranked, level 47 when I'm level 25. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, one hit from this creature is going to destroy me. But like I said, I'm going to keep it a little bit vague there. But my reentry back into this, I don't think the storyline is the most gripping thing in the entire world, but I will flat out say that I didn't necessarily give it the chance to grip me.
After 18 hours?
I very quickly started skipping conversations, and you do have dialogue that you can select, and it does seem like they do a good job, or at least an attempt at trying to involve your character and give you a little bit of reason to be invested. But if I were to sit there and listen to the dialogue in this game, I wouldn't have just put in 18 hours. I probably would have put in like 20 hours. But it's either that or my gameplay would have been short-shrifted by the storyline, which I don't personally feel like is the most drawing part of the game. But I do think that if you were to play this game, if you enjoy at all the Shadow of War or the Shadow of Mordor aspect, and you like the gameplay, but you could strip away the Lord of the Rings aspect and dip into something like this, that you would find a lot of entertainment in it. It doesn't have that clunkiness of the controls. I think the character is a little heavier. That was the weird thing about the Shadow of War, is my character felt light, but the controls felt heavy. If that makes any sense.
No, it absolutely does.
So like when I'm walking, it feels like he's floating around, but whenever I'm swinging my sword, he's heavy, like he's hard hitting.
Yeah, it's kind of more like on the dodge parry kind of thing. So you've got to do A, Y. I have a problem with the Y and the B for doing some of the slaying kills. They're cool though because they can put fear in the rest of the orc horde that's around you, but they're kind of hard. Sometimes I'm just doing a wraith punch, just beating the shit out of them.
But with Odyssey, it feels like it's heavy and heavy. So it feels like you're a little bit heavier walking around. You're not just floating around the world. You can climb anything, which is cool, but it feels like there's a little bit of weight to it. It does slow you down in the right moments. It speeds you up in the right moments. And so far, like I said, being roughly 30 hours into this 150-hour game, it feels like it's just scratching the right itch. The environments are properly diverse. The action is properly entertaining and heavy. The skill tree starting out is very simple and basic at first glance, but it grows into just otherworldly. Like you have this Spartan kick that starts out that whenever you do level 1, you do a small little kick that kind of just discombobulates your assailant. You do a second one and you can kick them off ledges. You do a third level and you can flat out like kick them off the freaking map. Like they just go flying across the world, which that's the thing, is it gamifies it to the point where it makes it fun. It's like, hey, you stuck with it for this time. Let me make it more of a game for you. And that's the thing that I'm kind of, I need it.
Game.
I need it to grip me a little bit more than what I felt from Shadow of War. But that's just my quick overview. Like I said, I want to do a full-on recording of a review of the game because I think it's got me invested enough to be able to play through it in its entirety. Anything else that's been entertaining you, John?
That's pretty much been it. So
I'm going to do a quick run through, just a really fast run through, because I'm sure I'm not going to get a chance to go over it with you in the future. At this point, at that point, it's going to be old news. But I also watched a movie It's an older movie, older in the sense that it was released on July 27th of 2018, called Blind Spotting, starring David Diggs and Rafael Casal. I'm going to say his
Oh,
name is.
excuse me.
I'm sure you've never even heard about the movie.
Nope.
It is my inspiration to watch it comes from two things specifically: Hamilton that we talked about last week, but also kind of the Black Lives Matter movement. It was one of the movies that popped up on my queue on Amazon for things in that realm, and I had interest in it because I've heard it was a great movie. And I will say this: it is it's a pretty quick watch. I think it's only an hour 30, hour 40, something like that. And I'm not going to say it's the best movie in the world, but if I were to put it on the garbage, good, great scale, did you come up with the fourth one?
Yet.
God, you're failing me across
what
the
do you
board.
Want?
I want you to come up with a fourth G. I feel like we got to get in the in section so like nobody. Yeah, I see you kick the monitor on. You're gonna start looking it up.
I was. Now, you saw the whiteness from the.
Yeah, there it is. But the story's really good. The acting is good. There is. I really don't know how to say a lot about it. It's a comedy / drama, and they do a good job of implementing both. It feels like it's going to get really heavy in spots, and it's one of those movies that you don't know where it's going to go, like American Beauty, but it ends up ending in a way that is kind of unexpected, unbelievable, but not emotionally devastating. So it's nothing too much to freak out about. I don't think it's a movie necessarily for you, but again, if it's on my 3-fingered scale right now, because we're missing that fourth and you failed your, don't you dare.
Okay.
But I would put it in the good section. It's definitely not garbage. It's definitely not great, but I liked it enough to recommend it. I think it's good. And then the last one I'm going to really, really quickly just touch on, because I know you're a fan. I know I'm a fan, but Mike Shinoda dropped a new album.
It's called Drop. To it yet.
You've heard of it though.
Well, yeah.
I hadn't heard of it until literally yesterday. I didn't know it even came out. I'm a huge Linkin Park fan. It's one of my favorite bands of all time. You and I have seen Linkin Park together at least 2, maybe even 3 times. So 3 times. I've seen them 5 times total in my life. Sadly, Chester Bennington passed away roughly 3 years ago, but Mike Shinoda has carried on. He's making a couple. This is his second full-length album that he's released. The first one is an actual traditional album with rapping lyrics and his whole emotional breakdown and how he felt about the suicide of Chester Bennington. This one is kind of his, I'm going to say doodlings for lack of a better phrase, but it's kind of the things he's been building and breaking down over the course of his quarantine. And it is 95% lyricless. The first track is a traditional Linkin Park-y, Mike Shinoda-y, Fort Minor-y sounding track. The rest of it is all electronic and musical.
Oh,
there is no lyrics. I know you would be. And out of the entire track, out of the entire album, there's probably 3 to 4 tracks that I would recommend on the great scale, but the other 7 or whatever are on there, I don't know the exact number, are probably only good to completely missable. I wouldn't call them garbage, but we need to figure out what that G is to insinuate.
Gotcha.
Passable but missable. I added 2 of them to my running track list, my workout mix. But like I said, the 2 to 4 songs on it that are great make it worth listening to, but it still probably falls into that good category for me. And I think it would be worth you checking out for sure. It's a quick and easy listen. It's not distracting. You could put it on while you're working, as long as you're not talking to, anybody, I guess. Or if you like, again, you go on a run, kick it on. It's probably a good couple of tracks to really run to. So that's kind of the gist of everything that's been entertaining me this week. I know it's a bit much, but I've been dabbling a little here and there. Like I said, I've been off for the last 10 days or so. So I've been jumping into TV shows. I've watched a few other movies that I can go into at a later date. But as of right now, that's all I wanted to go over.
I did want to go over the game that's in my top whatever games.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, I sent you a link about that one YouTuber who's the Angry Nerd or whatever. And And I was like, son of a gun, I really enjoyed that game. And I actually have the original disc too, and I brought it out
What
to
is it? I
show.
can't see it.
It's Chex
Yep.
Quest, man.
Oh my
Whoop.
God.
Chex Quest, got that in the deal. It's a Doom clone. That was supposed to be family friendly, and I had a lot of fun with it. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because apparently there is a new HD version that they remastered that has, multiple characters that can play and even a little bit of competitive PvP.
How do you spell Chex Quest?
CHEX.
Like as in the cereal?
Yeah, it's from the
Oh my,
cereal. That's where I
oh
got
my
this
God.
this
This is one of
disc.
your favorite games of
This
all
game came out of the
time?
disc. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
I
my
haven't
God.
played the second or third one. Apparently those were a thing. But yeah, dude, you have these like I don't even remember what they're called. The slime guys, the booger guys. And you're supposed to Zorch them, you know. I forget what they're
Whatever
called.
that means.
Zorch them. I mean, you gotta send. So you don't kill them. You send them back to their dimension by teleporting them, and it's not a friendly way. It's a Doom clone, but it plays great. It was an awesome game back in the day. I have very fond memories of it. Um, like basically you were this cereal guy and you're on this planet that is rich in nutrition, and it's like some scientists, as scientists do, they fuck things up and they opened up a dimensional portal that brought in these bad guys. I forget what they're called, damn it. Anyhow, so they like start taking over the planet. They kidnap people because you're cereal people, so I think they're gonna eat you, these booger people. But yeah, you're Chex Man, and you gotta go around and freaking send them back to the hellhole that they spawned from. So it's a Doom clone. It's great. It's a great game.
So on our three-fingered to be four-fingered scale, you're giving this a great.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I
And when was the last time you played this game?
I don't even know, man.
1992.
I don't know, but I downloaded the HD version because I'm gonna play that and see if it
You
makes
didn't
me
want to
feel
jump
the
into that
same.
before. All right. You didn't want to jump into that before you
I
you
haven't
gave it
played
your
it yet. I
recommendation.
was like, I was trying to bust out some Shadow of War stuff, and
All right. I can't blame you.
so
Nostalgia is a hell of a thing.
it is a hell of a thing. So hopefully I haven't built it up in my head to such a great thing that like now the remastered HD version is like just garbage, and I'm like,
You have. I'm just gonna spoil it for you. You have,
oh,
but
did you
it's
play
going
it?
on your
Have you
greatest
played
game.
it?
No,
I got
but
the disc. I
I
got the
know.
original copy. I'll freaking DOS box this son of a gun.
With that being said, I'm going to transition. I have my second pick was going to be another NES game, but I want to break away from that for a second because I don't want to seem too old school. And I'm going to go with something a little more current, a little bit older.
Is it a free game that came in a
Warhawk.
cereal box? Oh,
No,
Warhawk.
it's Warhawk for the PlayStation 3.
Oh,
And
dude, yeah.
this
So I
is
don't
I'm going
have
to
to
say
bring this
two
game up
things.
since you're bringing it up.
Oh, is that one of your favorites?
Yeah.
Warhawk. I got two quick things to say, and then I'm going to go into my actual opinions. Number one, it is a little bit of nostalgia because you, myself, and our friends back in the hometown used to kick into this game and play it literally all the time. And that Warhawk is what really knocked it out of the park for me. So I will straight up say it's a lot of nostalgia. But the number two thing about Warhawk is I think it's legitimately the game that I'm absolutely the best that I've ever been at a video game. Competitively in our friend group, I was probably one of the top players. But then also when I took it online, I was actually got to the point and I played it so much that I became one of the higher ranked players in the world at the time. And one night specifically, I remember playing against a guy, and it was a solo 1v1 game where we both just jumped into planes and we were neck and neck. You know, he was taking me out, I was taking him out. He was taking me out, I was taking him out. And it went on and on and on. And I was like, man, I've just never actually played against a player that's this good in a plane. And then I pop out, jump in the leaderboards, and this was the number one player of the game in its entirety. So he was the number one spot on the leaderboards, and I was actually going toe to toe with him. So that gives me enough incentive for me to believe that I was competitive in this game. Very simple game. It's multiplayer only outside of a small tutorial. It's a little bit of a sandbox, but the maps range from small, medium to large, and you can go
Archipelago,
land,
man.
sea,
Archipelago.
so you can go foot, vehicle, or air. There are also turrets and things like that
And
placed
air
around
has
the.
two, hover and flying.
Right. Your aircraft can hover and it can fly. And it's an easy game to jump into. It's a difficult game to master, but it is all just competitive. It might be deathmatch, but there was a zones, and that would be you capture the flags. I think there were 3, and then there was capture the flag, and it was so good because they had the Humvees, they had tanks, and then they also later introduced jetpacks and things of the sort. That's where it got a little goofy to
I
me.
like a flamethrower in the jetpack. I'm a freaking dragon. Jump up and
It
chase
was
people, and just blow fire down at them.
I felt it was great, but it did add enough of a twist that it changed the game for
It
me.
did.
And it made it a different enough entity that I enjoyed as much. But you start out with your pistol, you pick up weapons on the map, and it's completely, like I said, PvP competitive. And it was, in all its glory, one of the best multiplayer games I have ever seen. The thing that defined it for me was when you had a smaller, like, 2v2 or 4v4, it would take a small portion of the map and you would fight on that.
Yeah.
And then if you had a little bit of a bigger, like an 8 versus 8, it would take that same map, but it would expand it. So you would get the medium size, and then it would have the larger 16 versus 16, I think was the max. Maybe I'm wrong, but it would be a huge version of the same map. So it went from a fort to like a small island to a large island. And I thought that was a really neat way to introduce different feeling maps without having 24 different locations. Because in my memory, there were probably only
4 or
6
5?
maps, maybe at the most 6 in its entirety before the DLC. I remember one that was set in like an air, like you're above the clouds, like an air city. A desert city was a second one. Like a grass area was a third one, and those are the only 3 I can actually remember off
There's
the
the
top
one
of
where
my
it's just
head.
a bunch of burned out buildings. That was primarily all air.
I would even say this was a game that was very similar to MOBA in the sense that you had 3 different routes you could take. So you had mid, high, and low, and so you had to have people kind of watching all of those areas. But I
Yeah.
will say this: if you controlled the sky, you controlled the map. Again, I was a beast in the VTOL, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's, again, nostalgia based. If I went back to it now, which I've tried through PlayStation Now, the servers are relatively empty. And if you
Is this
introduce
still up?
it is on the PlayStation Now apps. But if you introduce any lag into a multiplayer only game, it makes it borderline unplayable. So when you're streaming on my crappy internet a game from 2007 or whatever it was, 2008, 2009, it didn't run very well. I did get into a game with about 6 or 7 other players, and it just didn't run well.
PlayStation's hosting their own servers for the game
Apparently.
instead of like, so they're trying to virtualize it like Google Stadia and Nvidia's whatever they call it. I forget what it is. So
Sure. I wish I could go into more about this game because, again, I wish I could jump in and we could play this game because in my mind, it's so beautiful. It's one of those games you're flying the airplane, you're going full speed, you hit the X button, you stop, dead space. So you got someone that's trailing you, stop, they fly past you, dogfight ensues. You jump behind them,
yeah,
lock onto them with a couple of missiles, and you could take them down.
I always played with
or
where like you can jerk the controller and do stuff.
yeah.
Had to.
Mhm. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining us on the Nobody Entertainment Podcast, episode 3. I'm Nobody, James Black, and this is Nobody, John. And we all thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Have a good week, guys.
Yeah, that's right. Go play Shadow of War.